If you don't already know, this is the Community Arts Department residency in the College Ave Galleries. We have had a series of really amazing events and talks going on in this space, as well as all of the art and documentation of art that you see all around you. I feel bad. Let's see. Coming up tomorrow is Harvest Oakland, is that what it's called, Suzanne? Which is going to be a really cool workshop about natural dyeing and about the CCA garden across the street. It's at 11 and it meets...
It's actually just sort of like an information meeting,
awesome.
More than a workshop,
and
just a meetup meeting here,
great.
On the couches. Yeah.
And you should all come. Suzanne and Sasha are both really lovely. And so are natural dyes. Also, be sure to come back on Friday for the CCA Music Department. If you have more questions, corner Brian after the reading. And stick around after poetry for tarot and other fortune-telling cards reading, which I will be doing here. What else? Oh, also, after that, at 7:30 across the street in Null Hall is a humble pie reading. With Zoe Tuck and Alora Young.
And also novelist Stacy Carlson.
Awesome. And I'm going to go to that, so we can all just like mass across the street if you want. Anyway, I'm really glad you're all here. This feels really tender. First up is Nic Alea. Is it Alea or Alea? I always feel like I'm saying it wrong.
Alea.
It's Nic Alea. Nic Alea is a Bay Area-based poet who co-hosts an open mic, The New Shit Show, which focuses on the production of new work. They also help facilitate a creative writing workshop in the Solano Juvenile Detention Center with The Beat Within. Nic has been published in Word Riot, Kill Author, The Evergreen Review, and some other cute places. Nic is a 2012 Lambda Literary Fellow, and their chapbook, No Trees, All Pianos, can be purchased at nicaleapoetry.bigcartel.com.
Hi. This is so silly. Thank you so much for having me, Zoe. Hi, I'm Nic. I feel like a small little baby right now, so I'm just going to do some quiet poems. I do want to say that some of two of the poems that I'm going to read like have to do with sexual assault, but it's like really minimal and there's like no details. But if that like is something that's going to make you feel like unsafe, then please like exit or do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. So I just wrote this manuscript called Sad Boy Slumber Party, and this is the title poem from it. It's not your fault. My psychiatrist is dressed in red, and she keeps talking like I'm an open wound, and maybe she's right. Maybe my lips do have the sizzle of meat cooking, and the slow drip of vinegar is reaching her lap. All I do is ask for the pills. I tell her it has been a long time, but I've been awake with myself for too many nights now. I tell her about how I sit in the dark and talk to my hands, how we are all sad boys, my hands and me, trying to glow out against the dark. I have never known skin quite like my own. It is warm and easy to cut through. That day, I asked my psychiatrist what the difference is between weeping and a flood, and she says that floods are for arcs and weeping is for people. I say that arcs are for people and we go back and forth until my jaw is on the ground and I use my tongue to crawl out, my own oil spilling out of my pores. I circle the pharmacy on my bicycle, smirking greedy over the pills. I think I'll name each one. At night, when my hands and I go back and forth, we will have the orange bottle in between us, and I'll say to everyone, you want to know the difference between weeping and a flood? It is the collapse, or the ocean floor. So I host this show in San Francisco called The New Shit Show, and it's my favorite show ever, and you should all come out to it. You can only read new poems there, so we want to get people to produce new work as much as possible. But one of the things that I always say to people is that we're in a space where there's somebody being like really vulnerable on stage. So if you like hear something that makes you feel good, you can like snap or like smile or whatever, you know, like affirmations are good.
Where does that take place?
It's at Viracocha on 21st and Valencia in the Mission. Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna do a couple more. This is called Woodland. That summer, the girl from the neighborhood put me in the closet with her younger brother. There have always been closets, and there have always been men or boys or people that have taunted the sweat from my brow. She let the pet rats loose and slammed the door shut. The game was to touch what was mine, but to make his. The rats crawled around on the floor, their whiskers sniffing in the dark against my leg hairs soft, before I had become a grown body. That was the same summer that the boys lit the cliff on fire. They had built a hut out of tree branches and cloth from their mother's linen closets. They huddled around the playboys, clenching their jaws at the sight of tits and sheen. I imagined that they grunted and grabbed at their dicks. The one boy dropped the match and the cliff went wailing into flames. They all became flaccid, I'm sure. The playboys all pissed on to put the fire out. The women on the magazine covers soaking from the rain of the emergency. I have met many boys like this. Ones who will piss on a woman just to wipe out the heat of her grip. Okay, I'm gonna do two more. I've been trying to write love poems lately, and it's like really fucking hard, so we'll see how these are. I loved the way my tongue has been split open. You know those men who have their tongues surgically split like snakes or other reptiles. My mother kept the lizards in a glass coffin by the window. Rock pool, horny toads, and crickets. The crickets, I swear, would crawl into my ears at night and push their sound down into my skull. It is amazing the way I sleep with earplugs. Bright orange cones to keep the crickets out. All hollow in my head, perfectly sharp, pin drop waking. The lizards began to eat each other. Or maybe it was the frogs, no one can really tell because everyone got fat. Everything got fat, the reptiles and their sticky tongues, fat and wet, eating the sounds of the night and a swarm of spit hanging out their mouths. I am attracted to snakes. Maybe for the split tongue, maybe because they know how the earth feels and I don't. Their bellies or whole bodies pick up the echoes of the soil and I don't. That I don't understand the earth or the sensory body and how everything is an echo. That everything the sunlight touches turns into clovers or slabs of wax. That the dual language spits out slowly and I can hear voices far across the ocean. And to wonder if this love sits on the porch in the sun and thinks of me, or dirt, or dogs, and how I want to be inside the soil so love can find me. I think I would have begun to molt by then. My arms full of welts, my throat full of wasps, and I become the snake, or the garden, or the hive. I try to just sit with it, the scales, you know. Feel like an avalanche that does not regret itself. To be the thing that climbs out of the ice and breaks into sweat, my mouth split open as to speak in two different tongues. And if I can say this here, then I can say this now, open. Okay, I'm going to do one more and then you can hear the amazing poems from other people. Excuse me for being on my phone because it's stupid.
Cell phone phones are weird.
But do you guys Skype? Like, do you all like Skype with people? No?
Yes.
Yeah, it has happened? Okay, people Skype. All right. So I've been Skyping a lot lately, and it really is hard. Anyways, the thing that's hard about it is when the Skype drops and you're just like, babe, like, are you there? Like, hello? And they're all blurry. Anyway, so I wrote this in between the Skype dropping and then the call getting picked back up last night. Okay. I go to places so far away with you, and I open like the big sky, like a jar of honey. I drop it because my palms get sweaty and the glass is open and giving. I just want to lick the mess up from off the floor. I want to turn the record player on and eat all the dust collected on its plastic cover. I want to tell you all the things I know about light and how I know nothing about the sun, but I know everything about the way it catches itself on the branches of trees. Once, I walked in a forest and it was raining, and everything about the moss stood out sparkling, and I didn't know you then, but there were echoes jumping off the hillside. I am always from the dry place, but I keep coming back to the ocean because that is where the sand got spread out like open maps, and I point my finger down and decide to go to there, and hopefully it will rain, or the sun will catch, and I will sweat and become something. Maybe moss, I hope. Thank you.
Nic Alea makes my throat feel scratchy, and I hope they'll invite me to their Sad Boy Slumber Party. Next is Nathan Gale. Nathan Gale is a nice guy. He's also a writing and lit major at CCA and enjoys eating, which I really feel. Welcome to Nathan.
Okay.
I'm going to read two parts from a longer piece, which may or may not be the thing that makes me graduate. So if it gets too long or something, I don't think it will. But okay, I'll do it. All right. It's called Morsel. All right. 1. The woods sound like skin. By 1896, trees were drained of sperm, the locals trudging home, pillowcases of sperm. So the trees got together and made one gender that fit all trees from dead bees and saliva, and saw that it was good. I built telephones for trees from pollen doused in kerosene, smoke shredded by a tree into conversation, its gender tucked under beehives. A ghost with a pillow over its face can be used to make the sound of snow, but also kills chickens. The light runs red. Don't eat light. You will be unable to digest any meat or wing again. You will be doomed to inhale light through the slits in a paper bag. The woods sound like light. 2. Light like milk curdles. Light will curdle in your stomach. You will need 2 stomachs. One to turn the light into pee, and one to churn its shadow into manure. In scientific circles, this is called double dipping. Curdled light, the history of ghosts. Ghosts start as colds or flu or pox. This is how they learn your name. A ghost is emptied by scratching or the pouring of food from the mouth, pollinating the air with a ghost. I once gathered manure, shat there by second stomachs in my pillowcase. I would scorch the nettles and grasses blackened with urine, summoning Satan with his black hair and cookie-colored face. I would feed him manure. In return, he would retell the same joke. If fatty means full of fat, shouldn't skinny mean full of skin? Four. Our mother pulls manure through a gap in her second stomach, germinating an orchard of stumps. Shoveling severed fingers at each stump and holes cut with her 30 horns, nursing the fingers and the genitals as stumps bend into trees. Scratching scars in the bark where my mother's nails dug and carried her weight in pills and sperm. Ghost, the language barrier. The only way to get a house to talk was to burn the house. Not even the orchard would burn. The fire would dribble against the bark like urine. Humming came from the orchard, like machines or mouths full of silly screaming. Some people think silence is a ghost. Rarely ghost comes in cavities. When the brownish light is struck from a tooth, ghost sprays the silence like silage. Silence, the measurement of how well cooked a ghost is. A pack of ghost is called a hand. I shall sink my teeth into a ghost. For a punishment, I was sent to the coop in our backyard. I was to hatch 20 eggs from my bug-shaped belly. After laying 20 eggs, only one would survive. Night above, I would eat my last hatchling through a slit in my paper bag. I tucked my ghost into my shirt. My mother has a ghost that goes all the way down to her belly. Mine's just like it. I shall sink my skull into her ghosts, the familiar taste of wontons and fingers, that familiar sound at the point at which the past becomes silence. You guys want part 2?
Yes, yes.
Alright, this is more narrative. 1. He met the ghost through phone sex, and he said his name was Father. Phone sex, like most things, was predated by fire. Father would burn kindle and hair, pushing smoke signals with a stick out of a hole in the wall in the room that had no windows. Walls that had no windows had curtains patterned with massive flowers, each as big as Father's head. The man named Father compares his head to the flowers on the curtains. His head has grown 1/4 bigger. Simple. To get a blonde ghost, you would burn blondish hair. To get a brunette, you would burn brunettish hair. He could spend his money on beef or wing. He could spend his money on more money. He spent his money on hair. Beware of burning dyed hair. A noise of pumping blood, of something swallowing something larger would fill the room. Father piled black hair, spaghetti hair, see-through hair, red hair, and custard hair, 5-inch deep pubic clippings. Burning it one night, he pushed the smoke with a broom out of a hole. One massive ghost, or 100 puny ghosts put together, appeared. Ghost was too big for Father to couple with, or press against, or sexing with. Father used his body like a genital, placed inside the ghost, backward and forward, all of them hold inside it now. Dawn is swollen like a rooster's head. The ear hole was bigger than his mouth, could feel the billion tiny bones that weren't there, moved his mouth to say his mother's name into her. What came out of her mouth was his name, Father, Father, Father. He took that name and went outside to use it on her. He named the ghost her. Love was made each night like bread. Father's body broke in half, halfway through. First his head grew back on hips, last his head sat on 2 shoes, and he could be mistaken for a Mr. Potato Head, mistaken for dead. Father tried breaking up with the ghost by disguising her. Human skull, stuffed head, metal or wooden head with curly black hair, black cat. Finally he settled upon a hat of 30 horns with a hot dog skewered on each. Tricked a dog into eating her horns and all, and saw that it was good. Lastly, a man named Father kept an x-ray of his urethra, where he hid a strand of ghost hair in a cylinder. Burning ghost hair would conjure something in the flesh and blood he could love, could hold on to, a pet turtle or a bride. Silence made of beef. Father knew, and he filled his room with beef till the sound of her went out.
Thank you, Nathan. That was really amazing. Finally, tonight is Brittany Billmeyer-Finn. Brittany Billmeyer-Finn lives in Oakland, California, where she received her MFA in poetry at Mills College in 2012. She co-curates the living room reading series Manifest. She's the curriculum development and leadership coordinator for Pushing Margins and LGBTQIA Youth Summer Arts Camp with curriculum in visual art and creative writing. She is co-founder of the workshop series Burning Pudding. Her work can be found in various local publications and upcoming in a few more.
Hi, thank you, Zoe. Zoe actually performed at Manifest once and it was lovely, so thank you for hosting me. So I brought some poems, sort of a collection of miscellaneous poems from various projects. And I guess I'm not going to differentiate them because they're all connected and potentially are just continuations of each other. Addressing Perhaps the Void, Patti Smith, Coral Sea. Softly, listen to me. You are in God's hands, my child. Open to the sky, an hour passes, one enters, you swallow, I must rest now. So little time, no way of knowing their fate, leaving me senseless. We keep changing our minds. A dark trouble, that milky skin, you understand. We all do some accumulation. It's just that she and I were born in the same house, still and astonished, and now, occasionally odd, we were face down. I can't take care of you. People's shadows grow longer like so many skins, something to think about. How to finish a fold by enacting the ritual, I watched the light changing, suddenly flattened objects meshed. Peeled back, adapting to anything, a bit of remorse, funny motions of play, a small portrait, certain rituals. I myself, strictly speaking, this is my sensitivity. I have vaguely remained, for the work could never be mine, but it was true, transcribing a scene in every detail. I recall a hot summer day. I enjoyed myself enormously, our previous destiny, the impression of intention, and I know so little and said nothing. I believe love was easy with fear, my own body turning, and I go on living. We plead for them to leave. Who will continue to be taken, at night, or under the light of day, to at least see the outside, the blue skies of the night stars. The world. She said, "The sky is bigger in Texas, don't you agree?" And so I looked up, and I agreed. This moment reminded me of a time when I sat at the edge of a beach on Lake Michigan at midnight, unable to see where the sky and the water meet, with the Milky Way dusty and overhead, the Big Dipper so close it took over my place on this earth. This moment reminded me of the mnemonic acronym HOMES in reference to Michigan's surrounding lakes, Lake Huron, Lake Ontario, Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Superior. And this moment reminded me of the summer of club homes, when we went to Port Huron for the water 2 weekends in a row, deciding that we had started a club, and we took our tops off and waded in the water and put our tops back on and sang David Bowie on the drive home, and then the club disbanded. And this moment reminded me that my palm is a map of where I used to live for all those years. The protagonist's understanding, my generic boundaries, part of my general self, how to find myself in and out of them. We are getting out of here. I'm staying right where I am, because we must deal with the unknown, this double memory. I like to pull a tarot card every day, but sometimes I don't, and so I pull 2 or 3 to make up for missed days. King of Swords, the reflection of air. 6 of Wands, there's a feeling about to reveal itself. The world, I know you inside the bounds. Justice, the curtain is purple and the cloak red. 5 of Pentacles, the destitute earth. Wheel of Fortune, I am not the compass, and then the world again. I lean into her field without smiling. We stick together, a body grows, absorbing the sunlight, this tiny voice, a present desire. She says, lay back and relax, as she strokes the land. What do I need to know to do this? Indulge, self-direct, be accountable, reach, say thank you, be practical, expose myself, go berserk. It is not easy. I articulate probing the resistant mind, the individual obsessed. The dust begins to gather, thickening in the throat. In case of a disaster, we will all meet in the parking lot of the Giant Burger at 26th and Telegraph. And we all stood around, pouring water into each other's eyes. I'll see you there, Zoe. Everyone else is invited. An incantation for memory. This paper, that you are pressed into so thoughtfully, an object of my own memory, desire, future. We belong together. As you maintain an action, I am enacting. In the dream, stark spaces, when we were there and I cast that smirky archival spell while we were inside of the place. 2 pillars between what happened is happening and a symbol. The way the foliage floats in the mind and the light while the shadows decapitate the architecture of where we stand together as we see, and the distance between us or the space of the room. I stuff rocks into my pockets, you pretend to be one of the birds. In the story, my skin begins to resemble the elephant. I told you all my family members die in an easy chair. As the plumes come together, a semblance, an object, 2 things resembling each other, the contours of the landscape creating a surreal dislocation, moving through each place, we meet and re-meet. She smuggles Maui Wowie in her bra. She hates her hands because she thinks they are too big. She presses her palm against mine to prove it. Every one of them, facing away from us, we can imagine the shape of their faces, ourselves visitors, the constructed habitat, and then how this speaks to what I'm getting at. Do you remember what I said, how I looked onward, inward? The darkest part of the page, the way I took shape, becoming the room. I imagine there are buttresses, which might be desire, how uncomfortable I was to be caught. Holding my own hands tucked away, that joke you make as I become unstill, unstuck, how you are always in motion in my dreams. I wonder about you. The striking plume, the striking palm. No, you tell it. You tell it better than I do. So many holes, my belly warms without a thought in the world, a figure in the foreground casting light in the everyday, how perfectly ordinary. And this might be a future, a letter I sent to myself, a coded erasure, holding a trace of something. What we conceive is time, how you watched me, various pieces, where one ends up, the ends. This tender heart. 1. That art making is a privileged act and an act of survival, even if the privilege is believing that what we've made deserves to find a place in the world, and the survival knowing that its creation is proof of your resilience. Tessa Nic Alea, Magpies and Door Frames, an essay on failing. As my tongue breaks through the rim, different objects gather. A field of meaning, the same field of meaning or how things matter more. Writing what I think might be healing, this participation and this work, to meet and to be charming, my own combination of insight and awkwardness. Toxic approaches, makers of objects, obsessing about this. The heights appear in the head, slippery and then suddenly unsuspecting. A lie, an impulse, some stopping. I call out for the subject. Contamination haunts, the scene of wreck, hesitating before moving on. The tattered couch facing the mantel, painted a light gray, the fabric blinds and the TV in the corner, our heads at either side, our feet touching in the middle, no wonder. Product of whirling chance becomes visible, and then material, and then heavy. The artificial conventions, multitudes, probing questions, human value, just value. This ownership of thought, a weapon against a sea of transparent forms, like bodies, or just bodies. To cure a disillusionment, and might my body have been there? The ridge, translucent from the interplay with the ground, neither a place nor an activity, nor a body of work. Something seemingly indistinguishable until it is in the streets, blatant and brutal, a field from the origins. No combination adheres identities to the cramped feeling amidst the materials of the object. 2. You can come in if you want. I have come to believe that revolutionary tenderness signifies the negation of the negation. That is the refusal of the shittiness of our present moment and the determined insistence on optimism, and in doing so, making the future life we want live in our present selves. I believe that unless we treat each other with tenderness and care, now the revolution will come. Francesca Rizet, What I Want, a manifesto for revolutionary tenderness. A bundle of mugwort from a friend, a stick of sage from an altar, a broken crystal from my pocket, and 3 tarot cards. 1 for letting go, 2 for validation, 3 for reaching towards. Directed towards myself, I fuck up again and again, and in some way this is affirming, a value system of my emotional state, of the political gain of intuitive practice, that small rituals hold me and the space transforms as I light up value as a form of feminine subversion. Sustaining a spillage frantic is something like the darkness in my throat toward delusion, as in the continuing darkness. I blame the moon for everything, these small details of everyday life, what interference feels like, an erasure, a catharsis, hollowed out language, stark under the rubbing, the stain of it on the ridge of my hand, the surrounding possibilities for touch, everything having been made. A casual truth, systems of silence. I have time between these 2 sounds, a series of haunting or perhaps a systematic haunting. And what will be the occurrence happening now? How will the encounter affect? My house growing up was gray, each brick, the walls, the tattered couch, the fabric blinds, warm in my mother's rich jewel-toned tongue, how I mold around her skin. It is almost that. Invisible traces, the new spaces of retreat, of assemblage, when this identifier draws a blank, reiterates a hierarchy, engulfs a refusal, I ask, what can I prevent? Just a couple more. The scam. I like to tell you that I am coming when I am coming, and you say you like it. The arc of an abstracted tree sailing away in its abstracted ship. Between this and the forgotten, reiteratively, further from the truth, or nothingness, or natural history, or tongues, or inheritance, surveillance, a feedback loop, so impulsively this impulse, passing through bounds by this action, an obscured endurance, being out and about, blasted for speaking, for linking arms and saying no. The time my cousin texted my uncle from across the table to ask if I am gay. My aunt read the text and responded with, I don't think she likes labels. Some of the labels I can think of are queer, cis, white, only child, bastard, Midwestern, Catholic, and then agnostic, and then atheist, and then witch. middle upper class upbringing, feminist, ally, English major, poet, Pisces, wifey for lifey, shop girl, hopeless bottom. Mythology or recognition. They said that tender ear, they said it twice. Giving this care, my care. My therapist said the depression is situational. One person drawn into making, I sent a text, running late, I love you, can we reschedule again, I'm sorry, it will be okay. A massive spectacle, at various times, holding a book, take on new images, continuously changing. The sacrifice of the individual for the whole, the murder of the individuals, the concrete in winter. For the audience, a strong message, an old folktale, lovers, the split, representing a great sadness. Context comes in changing little segments, the latest saga, important biblical artifacts, the scam. Don't take it too far. It is called that because of historical proof. Opening the windows, letting the fresh air in. I could care less. Stepping into that world, my world follows. The hook. Until we give up, until we demand, until it seems to me it must be love. We could get down to work, we could argue, we have grown exaggerated, bound and repeating, what a day, what we keep, ties and hates, and not totally imaginary descent, ascent, so much endless, letting it go, and it is all right, and it is difficult. It was unusual, we knew it, everybody knew it, and again, like boredom, again, letting me off the hook. Let us resume. There is some sort of question. I long after something. Yes.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, Nick and Nathan. This was super lovely. Thanks for sharing your words. Thanks for filming, Nathan. So yeah, hang out, talk to each other, look at some art. I will be reading tarot cards if that's something that you're interested in. And then around 7:30, I will be heading across the street to the humble pie reading, and you should all come along. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.